This is Gemara in Gittin Daf Ches, and we're holding on Zayin Amid Beis. We are 4 lines from the bottom. We just finished, just to give a quick reminder, we had 2 Mishnayos. Hamivi get bisvina, someone who brings a get on a boat, is that tantamount to bringing the get in Eretz Yisrael or not? One brisa said yes, one brisa said no, and we concluded in the previous Gemara that there were multiple answers. Rav Yirmiyah said, Ha Rav Yehuda, Ha Rabbanan. Whereas Abaye said that both Rav Yehuda, one is that the boat is goisheshes, it is touching the ground, and the other is when the boat is not touching the ground. And now we continue with something which seems unrelated, but it'll be related in a moment. Amar Rav Zera, 4 lines from the bottom, teaches Rav Zera, Otzis, Nakov, Hamunach, Al Gabi Yiseidos. We have a flower pot that is standing on pegs. But it's a flower pot that has nakov. There are holes in the flower pot. Who cares that my flower pot has holes? And the reason is, as we're going to see in a moment, is that lehalacha, with that I have a holed flower pot, we view this flower pot as getting nutrients and nourishment from the ground underneath, even though it is munach al gabi yiseidos, even though the flower pot is not resting directly on the ground. Still, the question is, maybe through the airspace, it is still considered that it's getting some level of nourishment from the ground. So Rav Zera taught, when I have this flower pot that is on top of pegs, said Rav Zera, this is the machlekes, banu machlekes, Rav Yehuda v'Rabbanan. What's the machlekes? We look at the bottom Rashi, and Rashi, the ultimate Rebbe, explains that Rabbanan avir keman chadami. According to Rabbanan, being in the airspace is tantamount to being placed on the ground. Rav Yehuda, according to Rav Yehuda, lie, it's not considered. Where did this Rav Yehuda and the Rabbanan come on? This is the previous answer, in which the Gemara answered that according to, this is within the answer of Rav Yirmiyah. And the Rav Yirmiyah said that when we have the dirt of a boat that's being brought, it is chayiv in meiser according to the Rabbanan. What's the reason? The Rabbanan obviously hold that avira, being in the airspace of Eretz Yisrael, is kiman deman chadami. It's as if you're on the ground. So Rav Yehuda disagrees. So Rav Zera wanted to take this same din of being in the airspace, and apply it to this flower pot. Says Rava, nothing doing. Amar Rava, 2 lines at the bottom. Dilma lahi, perhaps not. Ad kan lo kam Rav Yehuda hasam el bisvina. Perhaps Rav Yehuda only said his din specifically by a boat. Why specifically by a boat? Because a boat is asuya librayach. A boat is something that literally is made librayach, to run. And Rashi means, what does it mean it's made to run? Kalaymar, says the top Rashi, we always know Kalaymar means something that's not necessarily the most obvious explanation. Says Rashi, Kalaymar, then it moves always. So perhaps a boat that's always movable, that's when Rav Yehuda said he's din. Aval otzis she'ina suya livrayach loy. Perhaps an otzis which is not made to move, then Rav Yehuda would not hold such a din that has to actually be in contact to the ground. Meaning, when did Rav Yehuda say that being in the airspace is not enough? Is a boat that's floating, that's moving, but when an item which is not moving, like our flower pot, maybe Rav Yehuda would agree that it is considered like it is in Eretz Yisrael. Teretz 1 of Rava. Inami arkam l'kamer Rabbanan hasam ela bisvina d'loy mafsik avira. Maybe the Rabbanan only said the din over there by a boat in which there's no avir, there's no airspace blocking. Why is there no airspace? What do you mean? It's on a boat, and the boat is on the water. It's not on the ground of Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, Demaya, because the water, ki arya semichta damya, because the water in which the boat is sitting is like arya samichta, a thick ground. So even though the boat is floating, it's ki'ilu lahalacha, arlachik ay, say the chachamim, according to Rava, view it as if it is lying on the ground. However, aval otzis the mafsik avira, where there's air separating loy. So says Rava, back to Rav Zera, the 2 dinim are not necessarily related to each other. Continues the Gemara with another din based upon this din of maybe get in the waters of Eretz Yisrael. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, 5 lines down, Ches Amar Aleph, teaches Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, B'nahara is to Eretz Yisrael, a boat that is on the rivers of Eretz Yisrael, says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, with regard to bringing a get, everyone agrees. If you're on the river of Eretz Yisrael, then it gets a din of Eretz Yisrael. When you're floating in the Yam HaGadol, which is the western boundary, Rashi reminds us of Eretz Yisrael, that is the machlekes between those two Mishnayos, whether when a boat is in the Yam HaGadol on the western boundary, is that considered Eretz Yisrael or not? Now, what is that machlekes? Explains Rav Nachman Yitzchak based on the following brayso. Titanya, we learned in a brayso. What are the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael versus Chutz Aretz? Says the brayso a bit of landmarks. There's a place called Turei Amnon. So anything that slants downward from the mountains of Amnon inward, that is the din of Eretz Yisrael. Southward towards Eretz Yisrael is part of Eretz Yisrael. Turei Amnon v'lachot says din of Chutz Aretz. Part A. Part B. Hanisin Shebayam. How do we view the territories, the islands, I should say, that are floating in the Yam, in the Mediterranean Sea? Says the Brisa, Roy and Isan, we view them ke'ilu chotam hatuach aleim. There's a string that is stretched across them, mituri Amnon ad Nachal Mitzrayim, from this mountain of Turi Amnon until across Nachal Mitzrayim, minachot v'lefneim, from the string and inward. That is din of Eretz Yisrael. Menachot v'lachot, that is a din of Chutz La'aretz. So you have this juggedy Eretz Yisrael, and you're drawing a line from one island down to the next. I should actually say, let's say this is Eretz Yisrael, just to try to show it. And if you draw a line from over here down till here, so there's going to be part that's going to jut out and be part, and part not. Similarly, there are going to be parts of the ocean that are going to be within that area or not. Anyone who has an art school, any of the other Sfarim over here, show a picture. I apologize, I don't have one open on the computer. Rav Yehuda Omer, no. If he disagrees, that's not how you measure. It says Rav Yehuda, Kol shekineged Eretz Yisrael. Anything that is opposite Eretz Yisrael, and actually, you know what, I'm going to try to get a picture open. Let's see if this works. Says Rav Yehuda, Kol shekineged Eretz Yisrael, Hareu Eretz Yisrael. Says Rav Yehuda, if you're opposite Eretz Yisrael, you have a din of Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar, where does Rav Yehuda know this from? Says the Gemara, he learns it out from a pasuk. Shenemar, Ugvul Yam, Ugvul Yam, V'aylechem Yam HaGadol, Ugvul Zeh Yir Lechem Gvul Yam, V'anisid Shebistadim Roy Sekilu Chum Matuch Aleim. Excuse me, that's the pasuk. The Rav Yehuda views that he has a pasuk that anything that is opposite Eretz Yisrael is going to get the din of Eretz Yisrael. Now continues Rav Yehuda, V'anisin Shebistadim, and the islands that are on the sides. The islands that are on the sides. Okay, one second. I have a picture here. Let's try to get it open for everyone. 1 second. 1 second. Everyone, give me a moment. I apologize for this break in the proceedings. Okay, one more second. Hopefully we should be there. Hopefully in a moment there's going to be a picture that pops up of a beautiful map. And Baruch Hashem. Okay, so everyone who's looking at their screens, you're going to see a beautiful map. It's courtesy of call it my brother who sent this to me. Baruch Hashem. So anyone who looks at your screen, let's for a moment just look at this map. You see on the left side of this map, it says Yam HaGadol. And if you see, we're going to zoom in a little bit over here. You're going to see that it says, this is Eretz Yisrael. This is Eretz Yisrael smack in the middle. And you see Yam HaGadol. And if you see from the top over here, the top corner of this picture, that's Har Ahar, Turi Amnon. and Turi Amnon, you see this dotted line going all the way down. That's going to be the border of Eretz Yisrael. And the question is going to be the area on the right side of the border. Is that going to have a din of Eretz Yisrael or not? That is the point that they're arguing about. And for one more second, I would say I just want to make it drop bigger. Yeah, there you go. And now, so again, you see from the top over here, Turi Amnon, you see the dotted line, and you see this boat floating in the water. That's going to be the boat that we're going to be discussing, because that boat is going to be opposite Eretz Yisrael, but it's going to be outside of this line. So this boat in the picture, according to Rav Yehuda, is going to have a din of Eretz Yisrael, because this is Eretz Yisrael over here. You see Yerushalayim smack in the middle, and therefore it's going to have a din of Eretz Yisrael. Whereas on the other hand, according to the first opinion, Tanakama goes by this dotted line going from Turi Amnon and down, and it will not have a din of Eretz Yisrael. I hope that made things a drop more clear. If not, then disregard that and let's move on. The islands, and Menachem Mitzrayim, Amakainis, Menachov Lefnim Eretz Yisrael, so that is the Machlekes, Rav Yehuda and the Tanakama, how we view the borders of Eretz Yisrael. But what was the point? The point over here was, as the Gemara started of Rav Nachman Yitzchak, that Benaharis to Eretz Yisrael, everyone agrees. The Machlekes is that area on the Yam HaGadol, like we just said, that's going to be the Machlekes. We had two Braisais. Tana, maybe get Eretz Yisrael, maybe get Eretz Yisrael or Kechutz Laaretz. The Machlek is going to be in that area in between. Says the Gemara, just wrapping up loose ends over here. So Rav Yehuda had a pasuk. Says the Gemara of Rabbanan Hayu Gvol My Avdilaim Yibayla Nisin for the islands. Rav Yehuda Nisin La Yitzrich Ikra. Rav Yehuda holds these islands do not need a pasuk. We continue. Ramei Eretz Yisrael Gittin in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, we are 10 lines from the bottom. First one line is V'chulu. What is the status? If someone sells his Eved in Syria, is it like you sold it in Chutz Laaretz? What does it make a difference if you sell it in Chutz Laaretz? So, we look all the way on the bottom over here. And Rashi in the bottom of the Ovid points out, Rashi is about 5 lines into the Amid. Let's get it open, everyone can see. Rashi says, quoting Gemara, the lacha is, if you sell your Eved in Chutz Laaretz, the Eved goes free. Why? Because it loses a lot of mitzvahs. So what is the status of Surya? Now what does it have to do with Akai? We'll see in a moment. So Amar Lahu, Rav Chibar Rabba responds to, they asked Rav Chibar Rabba, and Rav Chibar Rabba responds, Tinin Tua. We can learn from our Mishnah. That what? That Akai only has a din of Eretz Yisrael with regard to Gittin. Does it have a din of Eretz Yisrael with regard to Avadim? No. Surya is further out, certainly will not have a din of Eretz Yisrael. So answers of Chibar Rava that Surya doesn't have a din of Chutz Laaretz. Therefore, Ameicher Avdoi B'Surya will have a din, Kemeicher B'Chutz Laaretz, and Eved will go free. Continues the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanim B'Shleisha Derachim, Shavsa Surya Eretz Yisrael B'Shleisha L'Chul. Once we're on the topic, the Gemara says there are 3 ways that Surya is like Eretz Yisrael, and 3 ways that it's like Chol. The Gemara says a Simin Av Barak. Of course, the Gemara used to have been translated orally. Anyone that just is beginning Pirkei Avos with Rabbeinu Yoina with us in the incredible Hachzik program, in the first Mishnah, Rabbeinu Yoina teaches us the progression of Torah Sheba'al Peh, Moshe Rabbeinu Mikibel Torah Misinai Misar Yeshua Zikanim, and he says over there that everything was oral, of course, and it was directly from Sinai. Everything was transmitted dar achar dar until the Chachamim decided it has to be written down. Then there was a Chasimas Talmud that they closed off the Gemara, etc. But into our Gemara, what are these dinim? Says the Gemara, din number 1, and we're going to explain each of these dinim. Afra tamei kechol, the dirt of Surya is tamei like Chutz Laaretz. Hamech avdel Surya kameicha b'chol, that the Eved goes free. And maybe get me Surya maybe l'chol. 3 ways. Shloshal Eretz Yisrael. Chavis Meiser Shvius, number 1, Eretz Yisrael. Harotz likanis b'b'tayra nichlas. If you enter into Surya, you're tar. Lakanis sadeh b'Surya. If you buy a field, it's kikanim b'paravya. Yushalayim, it's as if you bought it in Yushalayim. So 6 dinim, 3 dinim in which Surya takes on the status of Eretz Yisrael, 3 dinim in which Surya takes on the status of Chutz Haaretz. And now, says the Gemara, let's understand what are these dinim. So says the Gemara, we've turned over to Chesem and Beis. Says the Gemara, Chayav is b'Meiser b'Shviyas Eretz Yisrael. Why is Surya Chayav and Meiser and Shviyas like Eretz Yisrael? Kasavar, because we're of the opinion. Kivush Yachid Shemei Kivush, the conquest of an individual, as Rashi points out, that David Melch Yisrael conquered Surya without the aid of Gans Klal Yisrael, so did not have a din of a Melchemes Yisrael. So he's of the opinion that a Kivush Yachid is Shemei Kivush. Therefore, even though Surya was conquered by David HaMelech, it has a din of conquered by Klal Yisrael, and therefore, what's the halacha? It's like Eretz Yisrael, it's Chayiv and Meiser and Shvis. What was the next thing? That it's like Eretz Yisrael. We're taking the latter 3 before the former 3. That if you enter into Surya, you enter B'Tahira. Says the Gemara, 1 second. But one of the first 3 dinim was what? But we said that the afar, the dirt, was tamei. So wait, if you walk into Surya, you step on the ground, and therefore you're tamei. So how can you tell me that you're tahar? Answers the Gemara, B'Shida Teva Umegdal. The case is that you're entering in, floating in a box. They're carrying you in a box. What does that mean? Titania, 5 lines down, Chesem Beis, you learned in a Bryce. Hanech las Eretz Mishin Teva Umegdal. So it enters into Eretz Amin, and we'll say what this means in a moment. In a box, Rabbi Metame, Rabbi Yehuda Metayer. Rabbi says you're Tommy. Va'afilu Rabbi Lokamatame. When did Rabbi say you're Tommy? Elo be'eretz amim. That even though you're floating in the air, you're in a box and they're carrying you in, you're on a carriage and they're rolling in. So even though you're in the air, but they made a gzeira derabanan de gazur al gush of al avira, that the gusha, that if you touch the ground of Eretz Amim or the avira, even if you're within the airspace of Eretz Amim, the halacha is you are tamei, you contract the tumah of Eretz Amim. However, avol Surya, when you're in Surya, al gusha gazur al avira loy gazur. Says the Gemara, they never made a gezira on the avir. Therefore, if you enter into Surya in a box, the halacha is you are tahar. What was the third din of Surya being like Eretz Yisrael? As if you bought it in the provinces of Yushalayim. That you write a star when you purchase a piece of land in Surya. You write a document on Shabbos when you buy something in Surya. Says the Gemara, what? Really? When you buy something in Surya, you write a document on it? Answers the Gemara, Kedamai Rava. Oimer la'akum va'oiseh. What does it mean? It means you're allowed to do a mir la'akum when you buy a piece of land in Yerushalayim. It is so chashiv that you're getting the mitzvah da'araisa pashtus of being shayves Eretz Yisrael. You're allowed to even allow a guy to write up that din on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Hanami, Oimer la'akum va'oiseh. Va'afal gav, and the Gemara explains, generally we say amir la'akum shvos. It's usher to ask a guy to do something for you on Shabbos. Mishum Yishav Eretz Yisrael, in order to be Makayim, the din of Yishav Eretz Yisrael, of settling Eretz Yisrael, Loi Gazur Rabban, and there was no Gezerah, and therefore you're allowed to have a guy write at the deed of sale when you buy something in Eretz Yisrael on Shabbos, and similarly says the Gemara in Surya. And we wrap up, we're about 15 lines at the bottom, the 2 dots, Son of Rabban. So this sounds a bit random. This is going to have to do with the next Mishnah. But really it comes in over here because we've just finished saying that if a woman brings her get, she's believed to say, she has the credibility to say that, this is really coming from the Rashi as we're highlighting, she's able to bring her get from overseas, and she's able to say that it's a good get. So says the Gemara, the next Mishnah is going to teach us an Eved that brings his get. What does it mean, a get? His get shechur, his emancipation document. If an Eved brings such a document, he's as well believed. So says the Gemara, Eved shevigitav kasa boy atzchur chasek knilach. So an Eved walks into Bezdin with a document, and it says in this document, atzmacha, yourself, unechasai, and all my possessions are kenuya lecha, are given to you. So the master seemingly wrote to this Eved that his entire estate and the Eved himself is owned by the Eved. What's the halacha? Atzmai kana. The Eved is kind of himself. He goes free, but nechasai leikana. He does not acquire all the properties of the master. And we'll see exactly why in a moment. So actually, you know what? Let's not see in a moment. Rashi points out the reason is, why is he not kind of in a chassim? The reason is because you need kiyum sharais. You need to verify the document. But with regard to freeing the Eved, it works. Why? Because just like b'fanei nechtav, the Eved is believed. So says the Gemara, with this we conclude, what is the status if the Eved is a shtar that says, Kol nechasei, all my properties are acquired to you? So Amar Abaya, since he acquires himself, he acquires his properties. Since he has a credibility, a believability to say Vanei Nechtav, and in this document it's all connected, Kol nechasei, says Abaya, he acquires the state of the master as well. Amalei Rava says, 1 second. He acquires himself like a Garisha, Vanei Nechtav. El nechasim, Lai. Likni. He should not acquire nechasim just like all kiyum shtaris. You need to verify the document. So Abaye says, you're right. Says Abaye, you're right. Just like he does not acquire himself, he does not acquire the nechasim. Rava is still not happy. So Rava says, why do you keep on splitting it? So now finally the Gemara explains, in both of these cases, he only is kind of himself, but not the property. Says the Gemara. With this we conclude, Rav Shimon, the Amar Palginan Diburi is going to the opinion of Rav Shimon. It says you have to be Palginan, you have to split one's words, and therefore the Eved will be believed that he himself goes to freedom, but he will not be believed that he gets the estate of the master. We're going to pick it up from here in the next year as the next Mishnah is going to flow us into the next Amid V'siyata Dishmaya.